Okay, welcome back to Humanity Prelude. More novel preparation, more planning for the novel that I'm intending to write in November, as well as a short story that, Keish, you know about. Actually, no, you don't know about it yet. You and Fruity are organizing the whole thing. I have two ideas. I'm not sure which of the two I. Actually, no, I know exactly which of the two I like more. I'm just bullshitting here. Like, after reading the document tonight, because there's a document, of course there's a document, I won't talk too much about it. After reading the document, I came up with an idea that I like. I like the gist of. It needs to take a bit more shape, but yeah. So can I set that in the past? Like the setting, the setting in the document. You say I can talk about it. The setting in the document. Excited to see it come together eventually. The setting in the document describes it as like present day. The theme park already exists. I was thinking of a story set around the purchase of the land, and so it would be years ago, presumably. Don't actually know when it was constructed. That's a detail missing from the document. Anyway, I should talk about my own story, Humanity Prelude. Oh yes, because that's where my mind went. I came up with a character. I have a character. And a oh my god, like there's an almost complete story there, to be honest. Almost complete. It just lacks resolution. That's all. Humanity Prelude. Yeah, talking of timelines, my god. I should go over to my screen, which shows all this. And then I go over there myself. Yes, so I've done some changes to the folder. I've made some changes since the last stream. This whole document here, glossary, is new. I've got a glossary of terms, and these aren't just the raw definitions of them. I've got my own notes in here as well. Sort of what each means to the story, or what each means to the setting, or whatever I'm doing here. Common era, just me talking about like how to describe the year using CE and BCE instead of AD and BC. Another alternative I do mention is the Holocene calendar, but I felt like that would be too confusing. Like setting like the current year being 12,024 is it maybe gives the impression that it's 10,000 years in the future. It's not. It's the current year on the Holocene calendar, 12,024 HE, human era. That is the current year on the Holocene calendar. Notes there. What have I actually got? What have I actually got that was like... Yeah, fuzzballs. I think I mentioned these on a previous stream. Fuzzball being a conception from string theory about the interior of a black hole. I've got a note here about like if one were to travel into a black hole of such a description, one would note increasing temperatures as they approach the boundary, where they would then be atomized and reduced to strings, which is similar to. Do I have in this document? Do I have? I don't. I don't think I do. There's this concept of a firewall at the event horizon of a black hole. You can look up black hole firewall, and this concept exists. It lacks a lot of detail though. Like it's just there are some cosmologists who think this firewall has to exist, but they haven't exactly explained like how such a firewall could exist in the first place. It's just a potential resolution to a black hole information paradox, which I think fuzzballs address as well in like pretty much the same way. And fuzzball actually has an explanation in the form of string theory, which is unproven, but still. Fuzzball. The story will likely not describe this experience, the experience of falling into a black hole and becoming one with the strings, because it's not a subjective experience. You wouldn't experience that. If, like from a subjective perspective, if you were to fall into a black hole, you would note the increasing temperature first of all, but then once you reached the event horizon, basically you just get spaghettification. You get spaghettified. You don't feel that. It all happens very instantaneously, very quickly, because you're moving so fast due to the gravity at that point. If you could slow yourself down, maybe you notice some kind of effects happening as your feet go over the event horizon first. I don't know what that feels like, but let's avoid talking about that because it would be a silly thing to do. We might, however, describe the transition between space outside of the black hole and the fuzzy string state at its boundary. That is, for example, when describing the phenomenon of holographic baby universes. I have this idea of holographic baby universes being inside of black holes, which is not just my idea. There's something else in here, possibly about it. Shockwave cosmology. That's another idea. Shockwave cosmology is a hypothesis suggesting that our universe does in fact exist inside a black hole, and that the accelerating inflation that we notice in our own universe is the result of the interior spacetime of the black hole having lower density than the exterior spacetime of the universe that the black hole is within. So that's related to something I've been talking about in previous videos, like baby universes we've talked a bunch about. Because I'm trying to describe, I do have a timeline, right? Yeah, I'm trying to describe the moments from what I'm talking about, a theoretical absolute zero state, the boundary of the multiverse, the very, very beginning of not time as such, but this time-like thing adjacent to time as we know it is the best way to put it, probably. Because time exists within our universe. At the boundary of our universe, the Big Bang, time breaks down. Stephen Hawking and James Hartle, was it, had some interesting ideas about that, which I did add to the document. Hartle-Hawking state? Was it James Hartle? Yeah, James Hartle. They had this idea that at the boundary, at the initial singularity, time essentially disappears and it gives way to space instead. Time essentially flips into a space-like orientation. Essentially, it's very difficult to, and it's obviously going to have a lot of difficult maths that I don't understand, but it's describable. And in fact, I do go for a metaphor I've seen other people use in this paragraph here. Basically, think of it like traveling north on a globe. You don't ever reach, well, you do. You reach absolute north, but you can keep going from there. You curve back around. You start going south. The same sort of thing happens at the beginning of time, so to speak. You go backwards and backwards and backwards, and you reach the so-called beginning of time, and you just loop back around. It just curves back around. Of course, this, like approaching it depends on you being able to travel backwards in time in the first place, which you can't do, so you don't really do that, but that is the shape of it, essentially. Rather than, this absolute singularity point that doesn't make any mathematical sense and is a major problem in our physical theories. This was like one of the last things that Hawking did, I think, before passing was this idea, and it's brilliant. This isn't what I was going to be talking about today. I have some other documents here, like chapters. I've got the beginnings of some chapters. I think chapter -1 no longer exists. Oh, I should bring up the preview mode. I was messing about with like chapter headings using LaTeX in Markdown, and it does obviously represent mathematical formulae really nicely. But I think it's slightly more verbose to write, and that's like a typesetting thing that will come later, will come an editing point, so I'm probably going to write it more like this if I'm using these sorts of subheadings for like time equals 0, that's the beginning of the multiverse. Time roughly equals 10 to the negative 43 times I plus 10 to the negative 43 seconds, which is a complex representation of time. It's a complex number, I being an imaginary number, 10 to the negative 43 times I being an imaginary number. It doesn't really matter. I need a better way of describing this, but chapter 0 is where we're starting. Chapter 0 is going to be all that stuff. I need to talk about my... God, I need a new document, actually, because I need space to work. Acts dot... Let's make it markdown. And create a heading. Acts. Okay, so what's in a story structure? Let's talk story structure. Yeah, okay, so Freytag's Pyramid or Save the Cat's got a different idea? What are these? It's like a formula for tragedy. Blake Snyder's beat sheet for break into Act 2, midpoint, all is lost. Yeah, I do know the theme of the overarching story is like... Okay, maybe I'll describe that first of all. Like, what's the theme of the story? Because... Oh, did I think it was man versus nature? It sort of is. It sort of is man versus nature. It's like the theme, which is one kind of story, right? Man versus nature is a kind of story. What is man versus nature? Is a type of conflict in which a person or... Yeah, it's a conflict. Which is the sort of core part of a story. The thing is, because it's prelude to humanity, there is no man, there is no human for to be versus nature, but life exists. So it's more like life versus nature, life learning to thrive, life learning to survive, life recovering from extinctions, which is Act 2. So the overarching acts are Act 1. We know Act 2 is no, don't give me that. We know Act 2, the conflict is extinctions, right? So conflict, extinctions. Conflict, extinctions. And Act 2 is all about the conflict, and Act 3... Isn't Act 3... Of course, the 3-act structure isn't the only way to structure a story either. What is the 5-act structure? It's a thing. Do you have a wiki? List of story structures. Quick Quack. Oh, cool. Caribbean. It involves 3 elements: the narrator, the protagonist, and the audience. The story itself is considered a performance. There is a synergy among the aforementioned elements. Oh, that's so cool. I was not expecting like different cultured story structures from this wiki, but that is incredible that there are so many. Oh yeah, you can do a 1-act play. Story structure, please. 3-act. You don't have a 5-act one here, you just have the 2 variations. The 3-act structure is a common structure in classical... Well, I know what this is. The sections are setup, leading up to a dynamic event known as the inciting incident. So set up an inciting incident. Let's talk about these. And again, like, I don't strictly need to adhere to these, but it's good to have a sense of the story actually following a known structure, even if we deviate from it. I think the important thing is to have justification for deviating from it. It's perfectly reasonable. The 2nd act, or confrontation, is the bulk of the story. Okay. Here, the character's conflict is most developed, particularly between the protagonist and antagonist. as well as any changes in values and personality one or more characters may undergo, known as character development or a character arc. This leads to a second plot point where the second act ends and the protagonist returns to their ordinary world. The third act or resolution is when the problem in the story boils over, forcing the character to confront it, allowing all the elements of the story to come together, leading to the climax, which is the answer to the dramatic question, being hand in hand with the end of the conflict. So other things that are worth noting are, like, who is our protagonist? And I know that. That is life, the concept of life itself. Who is our antagonist? There sort of isn't an antagonist, but in a real sense, in a virtual sort of sense, the antagonist is nature. It's just, it's happenstance, and yeah. So that'll be that. Setup, inciting incident, conflict, extinctions, which led to what in the second act? It led to not to the climax, but to... Or confrontation is considered to be the bulk of the story. Okay, so conflict, extinctions... That is the same as saying confrontation, though, isn't it? So maybe rather than having that as a separate heading, I just have it there, confrontation / conflict, extinctions. And it is the bulk of the story. It's about, like, the trials of the protagonist. Okay? And Act 3 is going to be... Right, yeah, climax, which is the answer to the dramatic question. And it's where the second act ends and the protagonist returns to their ordinary world. Okay, sure. Climax, but what is their arc? What is the resolution, the character's resolution? Well, there may be more than one character, right? Yes, there may be more than one character. There will, in fact, be more than one character, definitely. But the protagonist, what's the conclusion to the... let's also just couple this like that. Conclusion to protagonist arc for the time being. Which is, they oh god, it's not mastery just yet, but it is, well, in a sense it is. In a sense it's, this, I think, quotes, mastery of nature or survival of it, because really mastery of nature comes later in the series. It does not come in this first story. So what am I missing here? The inciting incident. Gotcha. The thing is the inciting incident just the creation of life? Is it just like the sort of birth of the protagonist in this case? Because setup is all like describing nature and a description of nature itself. Comma, the hostility of it, which is not the hostility of it, well, is this the hostility of it, or is it the hostility / barrenness of it? And that's not spelled correctly, I can bet, but okay. The hostility / barrenness of it, because it is without life initially, and life is developing. But there are trials for the developing life even at that stage, like radiation will shred apart an amino acid, right? A description of nature itself, the inciting incident then. So actually, the thing is, it's definitely not a tragedy. I was about to say, is it more like a tragedy? And it kind of is more like a tragedy in a sense. If you like view nature as the protagonist and life as the antagonist who enters as the inciting incident, and then it's about then from that perspective, it's about nature lashing out at life with here's a fucking meteorite. But then no. Ultimately, life masters nature, and it's like, nope, you're not getting rid of us that easily. But really, the inciting incident, at least insofar as the overarching story is, I'm going to call it birth of life, right? The initial, like a biogenesis. Let's just also put in brackets a biogenesis, the origins of life on Earth. That's the idea. So that's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. However, let's make these smaller subheadings so that actually I can create another subheading here, because that's the overarching acts, right? Whereas book 1 might also want to tell a complete story, as might book 2, as might book 3. Book 3, sorry. Book 1. Yeah, do they though? That is the question. Outline does not have that much detail yet. It's planning, yeah. Book 1 begins with the big... No, it doesn't. We begin with actually eternal inflation, false vacua, and cosmological natural selection. We begin closer to that anyway, is the idea now. Big crunch is maybe going to be something described, but it's a lesser thing. We go on to the initial quantum singularity, the creation of our own universe. Where do we end here? Panspermia? Yeah, creation of life within this universe. Okay. Okay. So if that's the resolution, if that's the climax, if that's the denouement, if I'm not using that term incorrectly, and maybe denouement, the final part of a play, film, or narrative in which the strands of the plot are drawn together and matters are explained or resolved. Yeah, so just like a climax. Denouement. If that's like this bit here, what are the trials? What are the conflicts? What does it fit some of the structure? What is a Kishu Tenketsu structure? Classic Chinese, Korean, and Japanese narratives. It's divided into 4 sections which have been defined and used differently by narratives from each of the 3 cultures where the form is most commonly found. The 3rd section is based around a turning point, change in direction, reversal, or twist. The 4th and final section concerns itself with a result or conclusion, a consequence thereof, or a coming to a fruition. Okay. Linear narrative, non-linear, interactive narration, interactive narrative, and graphic narrative has 4 stages: an introduction of the characters and description of the situation. Okay, I think we're quite happy just like finding form in the story from 3 acts, and in like analyzing the story post all of this, it may turn out to be a very different structure, but this is just like guiding principles. So book 2 being the conflicts of life, me deciding to call this one extinctions, starts with like a biogenesis, creation of life on Earth, essentially. Amino acids, thermal vents, RNA world, and like various extinction events happening like from here onwards. And then the final major extinction event. So this one is a tragedy. This book technically is a tragedy. Let's get up the let's ask what a tragedy 3-act structure generally looks like. Such a thing exists. Resolution, pre-climax, climax, denouement. No, you're not really describing that, are you? sure. What was the thing? Kill the cat? Is that the thing that came up? Because I'm familiar with this term. No, wait. It's exactly the opposite, isn't it? Save the cat? Oh, which is a screenwriting thing. Okay. What's the goddamn meaning of save the cat? We're not killing cats. We are saving cats. We may be doing both simultaneously. Quantum superposition of cats. Schrodinger's cat. I can't remember what the whole point of the phrase save the cat is, though. But it's like, it's storytelling advice that I am familiar with. As the title says, I'm like 40 pages and I definitely question and disagree with some of the stuff, but blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. It's fine. Hi, Fruity, by the way. Tom Bruce's cat. No, I have... My cat's asleep over there right now. One of them. They're very much alive. Very much fine. I don't think I necessarily do separate these into, like... their actors search. How about book 3? Post-extinction. Yeah, see, because the way I start thinking of it from this point on is as like a... genuinely as like a collection of stories. Because it's got to cover like 65 million years. And obviously no single character from this part of the story is surviving that breadth of time. So it's many different perspectives, all contributing to the larger, what should be the climax of the story, what should be the resolution. Life, surviving and thriving. However, still with you know, looming threats. So this is lots and lots of shorter stories, all hopefully describing their own story of, yeah, life versus nature, life surviving, but also life versus the life, man versus man, that theme. I don't know. I don't know if these have like direct structures. Let's go back to just talking about like the overarching thing. We have setup, which is most of book 1. It's a description of nature itself, the hostility / barrenness of it. It's the inciting incident, which is the birth of life, abiogenesis, which leads to the conflict of life versus nature, which is all of Act 2. It's the main bulk of the confrontation / conflict between life and nature. It's extinctions, lots and lots of natural extinction events, or a lot of that is life versus life as well. It's like life overproducing to great abundance because it has no idea how to restrain itself. Early single-celled life forms reproducing and reproducing until there's just not enough resources to go around. So there's just extinctions, and it's all about the development of life and the arc, the character arc, the journey that life goes on is one of it's really just I mean, it's all kinds of different development, really, isn't it? Because it's essentially the entire story of evolution. Problem. Huge problem. Millions of years. Getting that to fit inside 50,000 words. It's fine. The arc is... it's one of life... Yeah, it's one of life. Life learns... put learns in quotes, because like a lot of this is not learned in the sense that we would think about learning, but while we're talking about life as being the character, we're going to talk about it learning like this. So life learns everything, right? Learns restraint. It learns one key thing was altruism. It learns survival, because that's ultimately what evolution is about, survival of the fittest. But it all happens naturally. It all happens by fitting to the niche, finding niches, you know. That's how life evolves. So something crossed my mind whilst I was talking about this just now, but I've completely forgotten it. That is the arc of life. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's me starting to think about the voice of the story, the tone of the story. Because right, okay, we're talking about a lot of, at least in Act 1, and then a lot in Act 2, and then even, you know, onwards in the story from this point too. Onwards into the next book and the next book, in order to like keep with the theme of like this goddamn heavy science aspect. We're talking about a lot of inanimate stuff, whereas traditionally stories deal with animate persons. The only example of a story I can think of, well, no, I can think of tons of examples of stories that don't deal with people, but the only example of a story I can, well, see, even this deals with people, really. I'm thinking of Flatland. I think it's a book called Flatland, which was written by a mathematician, which is a description of these oh god, really weird concepts. They're a whole concept of like two-dimensional life, and going into like great detail about how those two-dimensional beings see their world and stuff. But the voice of my story, god, is this like several points? I think this is several points. I'm gonna put that in bold. And so the voice is, we know it's third person omniscient, but we know it's also subjective when it needs to be. Subjective, but we know it's also objective when it needs to be. I can both express the feelings and inner thoughts of characters, as well as describe objectively what happens in the scene. Going to be a bit of a back and forth with that. Third person omniscient. Sometimes will it be third person personal? Is a good question. That I don't know. I'm going to put in parentheses here. Maybe sometimes. Sometimes personal, that's the other kind, isn't it? Third person personal versus third person omniscient. I can't remember. Subjective / objective. What else about the voice of the story can I describe? Do we, because we're dealing with so much that's inanimate very early in the story, do we personify it in some sense? Is a big question that I've been thinking about today. Do we, for instance, because we are talking about, okay, we're talking about life as a character from this point, like life as a character. How do we describe life? How do we refer to it in terms of like what are the pronouns of the concept of life? I think a lot of that's going to be on a case-by-case basis, talking about like the individual organisms within. So there'll be plenty of like actual specific pronouns for like living individuals in that set. What I'm more talking about right now is a description of nature itself, because we spend so much time, according to me, going over that right here. So when we do all this, do we do the thing that people do with like cars and boats and shit, and instead of saying the universe, it's something, 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 we would say the universe, her something, 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 or she something. Don't know. I'm not sold either way. That might come down to like how it starts to sound as I'm reading it back, so it might be a choice for editing. But we're gonna say potentially, and I'm gonna put in quotes here because it's not exactly personifying it to do this. I don't think. I think you understand. It's well, no. It is personifying, but it's not like largely personifying. Like it's not personifying them to such a great extent to just use personal pronouns for inanimate objects. Well, inanimate, say objects, like it's all objects, it's the universe, but the inanimate reality. It's not personifying, it's just like a poetic choice. Potentially personifying writing choices when referring to inanimate reality? Maybe. Okay. Because reality is a character. That's the key thing. Reality is sort of the antagonist. We said here, right? Antagonist is nature, yeah. Nature / reality. Sure. Hostile reality. We said. So that's the simple 3-act structure of it all. We have the theme, man versus nature, but it's also one of the 7 types of story. What are the 7 types of story? 7 basic plots. It's also... I mean, there's a sense in which it's rags to riches, because, like, life starts off as these simple organisms and develops to the incredibly complex by the end of it. And like probably since we started out describing space-time, the story probably ends with that complex life. One of the first, well, not one of the first ape species, but one of the ape species that we close the book on, looking up to the space-time itself, looking up at the stars and pondering. Something like that. The protagonist sets out to defeat an antagonistic force, often evil, that threatens the protagonist and or protagonist's homeland. Yeah, this is a theme. This is definitely a kind of story that we've got in there. In fact, I have like I made myself a to-do.txt in which I'd actually listed these. So I think, yeah, overcoming the monster, that's something that's in the story. I think rags to riches is technically in the story. The quest. What is the quest again? The protagonist and companions set out to acquire an important object or to get to a location. They face temptations and other obstacles along the way. The quest is not in this part of the story. It's not in Prelude, anyway. I don't think it makes sense for the quest to be in Prelude. Does it? Hang on a second. Yeah, they and their companions set out to acquire an important object or to get to a location. Could that actually be in the story? What are we talking about? No, because really the only thing that gets to a location in the story is basic building blocks of life, amino acids that are created in the universe early on and then transported inanimately to Earth at some point in the story. So that's not really a quest, because the amino acids don't choose to go on that quest. They don't They don't answer the call. So it's probably a no to the quest, but once we get to like the point of talking about planning document here. Early mammals, primates, old world monkeys, apes, like are these going to specific locations? You know what, it might end with the concept of the quest. Because like it might be at this point where we explore the idea of curiosity. Like way before humans, but we're talking about like I said that the final ape in this story and the first ape of the next story, the first one in stone I've written here, humanity stone being the original idea for the first book, dealing in Stone Age apes, not just humans but other Stone Age apes. So from that point, Aurorin might be curious enough to go on a quest to a location. Possibly. That might be the conclusion, but it's not actually a part of this story, the quest. It might be, it's definitely going to be later in the series, but voyage and return. The protagonist goes to a strange land and after overcoming the threats it poses or learning important lessons unique to that location, returns with experience. No. I don't think so. Whoops. Get rid of that. Is it comedy? Is it tragedy? Is it rebirth? You know, who came up with these 7 plot points? These 7 basic plot points? Christopher Booker. Right, yeah. You just got lazy with it toward the end there, didn't you? The other kinds of plot are comedy, tragedy. Oh, and by the way, rebirth. Which, yeah, rebirth is definitely a concept here. The idea of extinctions leading to new life developing in the place of the old, filling the niche that was left behind. Rebirth is a big thing. It's something that life does again and again in the story. Comedy and tragedy. Now, a comedy, it's not just like what's funny, it's dramatic work in which the central motif is the triumph over adverse circumstance, resulting in a successful or happy conclusion. There's a sense in which it's that, but I feel like that's so vague. It's not really a plot, right? Overcoming the monster is basically that. Rags to riches is basically that. Booker stresses that comedy is more than humor. It refers to a pattern where the conflict becomes more and more confusing, but is at last made plain in a single clarifying event. Okay, so it's like... Yeah, so it's... the majority of romance films fall into this category. Gotcha, yeah. Yeah, actually, comedy. I'm gonna add a note there, though. I'm gonna say comedy. Like the story might spiral. Get confusing, but resolution will, or should, because I can't guarantee that it will, make clear. And tragedy is going to be a major thing as well, I believe. Let's just check what tragedy says. The protagonist is a hero with a major character flaw or great mistake, which is ultimately their undoing. Yeah, okay, this is going to happen repeatedly. The protagonist's unfortunate end evokes pity at their folly and the fall of a fundamentally good character. Because, like, this is one of the things that life evolves out of, right? I've mentioned several times biological altruism, and altruism being something that evolved. Before it evolved, like, just you've got selfish cells. You've got cells that actually have folly. They're not conscious beings, but they have folly, and their lines end as a result of not having the correct adaptations that they need for some crisis. So yeah, tragedy is something that happens repeatedly throughout the story. That's fairly obvious. So who or what is the protagonist? This I've answered. This I've answered, and we said that the answer to that was life. Who or what is the antagonist? This I also answered. We said it was man versus nature, so this is nature slash reality. Ooh, okay, you don't like the slash, okay. There you go. What are the conflicts and with who or what do we sympathize? We have a list of conflicts in the new Acts document. No, we don't. Is it back in the old planning one then? No, we know that the conflicts are extinctions, largely anyway. Extinctions, and we are intended to sympathize with like who the character of the whole story is that we're supposed to sympathize with is life various, I guess various life various life forms, because not necessarily just creatures but also plant life too, also just like single cellular life. That's going to be a challenge, isn't it, describing that in such a way? That might require some personification. Themes, on the shoulders of giants is a major one. Kinship, cooperation, harmony is a major one. We've talked about up above, rags to riches. I mean, they're already checked off above, so that's fine. Let me just take off acts. Okay. So where do I feel like I'm lacking research, or do I need to talk about like the future of the series from this point? Like, there's a big clue to it here, in that like obviously after Prelude I move on to Stone, and you can guess where it goes from there. The idea that this is a technological state of humankind, this is an industry. You can guess that what comes next might be bronze, might be iron or steel, or whatever actually does happen to come next in the technological development. And we go all the way to achieving space travel, and beyond that even. Start talking about... Oh yeah, because I talked about first contact. I still need a name for that alien species. I wrote in my glossary, didn't I? Where did I add it? Extraterrestrial, yeah. An as yet unnamed intelligent extraterrestrial species will feature in humanity. There may even be a spin-off book dealing with their evolution and the history of their civilization, something I've mentioned previously. Although it hadn't occurred to me until I was doing one of these streams that might be the case. So I just think it'd be interesting to do, right? About how another completely alien species on maybe the opposite side of the galaxy developed. Where was I? What document was I looking at? Shoot, genuinely can't remember. Yeah, no, it was over here, Stone. Me talking about where we go from there. So we have first contact eventually with at least one alien life form. I need to decide actually whether it's one alien life form or whether it's several, because the resolution to that is my answer to the Fermi paradox. Is it the Fermi paradox? Pretty sure it's the Fermi paradox. Fermi paradox. Where is all the life? Yeah. But it's my answer to this, the Drake equation. Fermi paradox, Drake equation, which should both go in the glossary, really. EF. Cool. Fermi paradox. I won't do the my write-up of what it means just now, because I might want to go into a bit more detail about it and what it actually means to the story. Fermi paradox, and the other thing was Drake equation. Drake equation. Yeah, however many extraterrestrial life forms there are in the Milky Way galaxy in my story, is going to be an indication that my resolution to the Drake equation has a certain value. And then actually there is, yeah, so because I want to resolve the Drake equation in some sense like that, I do in fact need to have an idea of how to resolve it. And I do have some sense of how that works. There's the actual formula. Zoom in on that. N being the number of intelligent species in whatever region of space we're talking about. Milky Way galaxy, right, yeah, exactly. Equals R star times FP times NE times FI times FL times FC times L. Okay. Can't remember what any of these are. Oh, right, yeah, rate of star formation, fraction of stars that have planets, etc., 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 and it just reduces the number R star, being the amount of stars, down to the amount of planets, down to the amount of planets that could support life. That's Earth-like planets, I'm pretty sure. Down to the amount of planets that have intelligent life or something. Go on to develop intelligent life, yeah. Reducing and reducing and reducing and reducing the number until we have a resolution to this, with L being length of time for which such civilizations release detectable signals into space, which could be limited by their extinction, or it could be limited by some other factor, like they move on to sending out a different kind of signals that we can't detect, maybe involving gravitational waves, something like that, which could account for the silence out there. There may be other factors not included here that ought to be considered, like E, the average number of planets that can potentially support life per star that has planets. Yeah, NE might be limited by the amount of Earth-like planets that have Earth-like moons. Like, that might be a crucial part in developing intelligent life, or developing an intelligent life quickly, or even developing complex life, like, you know, plants, animals, dinosaurs, everything else. So it's a thing I have to answer. It's a thing I have to answer. I keep getting distracted. I'm so easily distracted. Yeah, we get to the point where we have contact with another species. We probably continue to from there later into colonization of the galaxy, beyond which there's... I generally don't know what comes next. I have said before that I don't think faster than light travel features in this story, but maybe it does. Maybe we reach a point of mastery of that too. And I have an idea in mind for the ending at the very end of it all. But won't go into detail about that here. You know, I think... How long have I been streaming? I think I'm just done for today. I don't think I can go on. I can create more and more notes across the month of October, but, like, can't... I mean, there are no rules for me necessarily here. I can just start if I want to just start writing. But the idea is write this in a single month. As well as the short story for the Cation Fruity organized writing thingy. So, rule of three, yeah, that's just, we know the rule of three. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Too hot, too cold, just right. we've got the opening image, the theme stated. Gotcha. So we want to. Okay. So yeah, let's actually jot these down in acts, overarching acts. Let's get these ideas. I'm going to make a list. Opening image. No, I don't want to actually add an image. Thank you. 2. With the theme stated. Leading to the catalyst. Break into Act 2. Catalyst, because I do like this structure. Not necessarily going to like tightly adhere to it. You know what's more interesting to say than break into Act 2, because that's like so vague, is debate, and then what's that? Does that say promise of the premise, or what's that say? No, not that one. Not Fey tags. Not the hero's journey. No, we're looking for the save the cat structure. Oh my god, Fichtean curve begins immediately with rising action followed by a series of fast-paced obstacles. That does describe the start of my story, actually. Here's the structure I was more looking like. Does that say promise? I think it says promise of the premise. Okay, so debate then promise of the premise. Debate, promise of the premise, whatever the fuck that means. No, thank you. We get to the midpoint. Bad guys close in. Let's do midpoint, all is lost. All is lost comes next. Dark Night of the Soul. And then Act 3. Dark Night of the Soul. And then we're going to say not break into Act 3 because it's so vague. We're just going to say climax. And then final image. Right? And I can't remember who came up with Save the Cat. Blake Snyder. There we go. Blake Snyder came up with... Let me just... Based on Save the Cat. Okay. So yeah, Blake Snyder came up with Save the Cat for screenplays. Let's keep that in mind. But I do, you know, having been raised on TV and movies, I do like the story structure of movies and TV shows. In particular, what comes to mind is Loki season 2 is fucking phenomenal in how it reaches a point of crisis, and then leads round to the resolution. Not going to talk about it spoilerifically, which is a word that doesn't exist. Hi, Fat Bubbler, how's it going? I also did not see the individual who got banned, but I also can't tell who did that. Who did the banning? Thanks, Fruity, for banning. I am well, thanks, Fat Bubbler. I am doing good. I think this, unless I come up with an idea for like another stream, another planning stream later in the month, this might be my last of these novel planning streams, because I've done a bunch of just like research in the past 2 videos, or most of it like written down in here. Okay. So, Fart Bubbler, welcome to the story. The story is, we don't even begin at the beginning of time. We begin what you might call before that, or adjacent to the beginning of time, in a sort of initial state of the multiverse, and then describe the evolution first of other universes, then of our universe as a baby universe of some other universe that survived long enough to produce black holes, and therefore baby universes. And then we describe the evolution of our universe up to the point of life arriving, or the genesis of life on Earth. And the part that I'm missing the most research on is book 3 at the moment, which is like, okay, there's the post-extinction survival of mammals following the extinction of the dinosaurs. And then we just start talking about primates, old world monkeys, apes, great apes, but I have no details here. And we finally arrive at Aurorin tugenensis, who becomes the first character in... This is Humanity Prelude, by the way, which is there, Humanity Prelude. The second book in the series will be called Humanity Stone, technically book 1, Prelude being book 0. It's just all a prelude. It's an extended prologue. We arrive at Aurorin tugenensis, who is the first character in that book, essentially. But yeah, hoping that the prologue comes to at least 50,000 words in November, but it may be longer, thinking about it all. But then it does depend, because you can, like, I've clearly described all of this in fewer than 50,000 words, but it's not a story. It's not a book. It's not readable. It's just a list of things, isn't it? And so this could all be told in a story that's 1,000 words, or it could be told in a story that's 100,000 words. It just depends. The difficult part, I think, is capturing the interest of the reader. It does sound like a huge undertaking, doesn't it? I think it's fine though, because like it has been slowly being undertaken in my brain for like the past 10 years. So a lot of the broad strokes of the entire story are there and have been there for years. I actually need to just start writing it down, you know? This is why I was talking earlier in the stream about personification, because we're dealing with inanimate reality. But do we call inanimate reality like, do we personify inanimate reality by saying she yielded baby universes, you know, that sort of thing? That's a terrible sentence. That's not going in the book, but something like that. But as I said earlier in the stream as well, that might be a case for like seeing how it feels as it's getting written and like editing it. And it might be something for a second draft, because I shouldn't be editing while writing. That is like how you don't write 50,000 words in a month. That's how you get bogged down on the first sentence and don't finish. So yeah, I think I'm ready though. I think the layout of the whole story is there. I just might need to go and do some more research and get more of the detail in place, and I think I need to work on like a chapters list. Chapter -1 doesn't exist. That I'm pretty sure I've decided chapter -1 doesn't exist, and the reason I've decided that is because chapter -1 implies that the timeline of our universe, the universe, is special and more important than what came before it, what came in chapter -1. And I know that our timeline obviously is important and is special to us because it's the only one it's the only one we're technically aware of. But I don't want that to be the impression created by the introduction of the book. So I think we do start with chapter 0. I think we have an absolute 0, which is the beginning of the multiverse. I'm just going to put that in italics here. Beginning of the multiverse, and leave a note to myself on the other document, -1, that oh, in fact, I have a note here already. Note, for reasons stated elsewhere, chapter -1 probably doesn't exist. We don't do it. Because it treats time. It treats the timeline of our own universe as special somehow. Of our own universe as more, quote, special than the adjacent timelines of alternate universes, which really only get dealt with in this part of the book. There will never be aliens from other dimensions in this book because it's all very hard sci-fi. So unless there's some like very clever mechanism by which that works, I don't think that ever happens, but it happens at this point in the book. Then the adjacent timelines of alternate universes. Yep. Okay, cool. That's something. Why is there an old man in your search bar? Why is there an old man in my search bar? Who is that old man? Gandhi. You're talking about Gandhi. It's Gandhi's birthday today. Apparently. Okay. And is there anything else I can like crunch out? So right, yeah. This and this make up chapter 0. Then that leads up to the Big Bang, which is probably chapter 1. But you know, it depends on whether chapter 0 needs to be split in 2 or not, doesn't it? Condensation of matter, all this happens, but these are not chapters. These are things that necessarily happened in the development of the universe. So yeah, okay. I just have to go away and actually plot out chapters. I don't think I do another planning stream, you know? I think this is the last planning stream. We'll see later in the month if actually I do another planning stream. I thought I'd be doing this a few times this month, and I have. This is the 3rd one, but I thought there'd be more, but I think no. I think I've got enough in place that I think I need to just start working on it. And I can't do that until November if I'm following the rules. But I can technically attempt it in October instead if I want to. Because I'm not necessarily participating in the official thing. So yeah. It looks reasonably well organized. I do need to mess things up a bit. Like I need to. So yeah, we've got the main folder here, which is the overarching project, Humanity. Then there's Prelude and Stone, which would be 2 separate books in the series. Prelude leading up to the first book, quote unquote first book, Stone. And then I've got this separated into parts 1, 2, and 3. It's reasonably well organized. I don't like that chapters are this deeply nested and I have to do that to get to them. So I might change the file structure. It is going to be, but is not presently, available to view at github.com/tombruce/humanity. As I say, this won't work because I'm not logged in. If I were logged in, you would see the repository for the story there, but I haven't made it public yet, so it's not there yet. And also, I'm not sure whether to make it public or not, is the thing. So we'll see about that. The license is copyright C. Tom Bruce 2024, all rights reserved. So there is that. If I do make it available, make it viewable on GitHub, it will be, sort of source available, even though it doesn't make sense because it's not source code, but, it's source available, not open source, which is a distinction when code is... When the source code for a piece of software is made public, that's source available. when it's licensed for reuse, that's open source, loosely speaking. So this would not be licensed for reuse or adaptation. This is my project, and yeah. When I do start writing, I think I'll do another stream and announce that it has started. But that might be it for today, because I can't think what else to do right now. Let's go back across to this screen. Hi. That was another Humanity Prelude stream, me talking about the project and working on the project a little bit. But I think I just have to start. I think that's it. I think there's nothing left to do in terms of like research. There's a lot more detail I do need to get from Wikipedia, but I felt a little bit I don't know how I feel about the previous streams, because it was just me reading Wikipedia for quite a lot of the time and going into excruciating detail about the nature of reality and space-time and stuff like that. Love that Tom talks about space streams. I have felt like like an exposed nerve doing these. Like, it all feels very personal to like be divulging the story idea that I've wanted to work on for ages. And it's not the only one. There are a few other stories that are in my head that want to be written down at some point. I'd like to work on a fantasy series, but again, it's like a really strictly scientific fantasy series. It's ridiculous. Like, okay, like if I'm going to feature a freaking dragon in said fantasy series, I need to be able to describe the actual evolutionary history and like rationalize the anatomy of the dragon. Is the idea for that fantasy series. I want that to make absolute scientific sense. It will have magic, but I also need to have like at least an in-world explanation for the magic that is reasonable and that is studyable by the characters, and they can explain how it works. And there is another story that I've wanted to write for ages, but I can't figure out what it is. It's really annoying. Because there's the premise, and the premise is really good, but the premise works in so many different ways and settings and stuff like that. The premise works. It is already written as something on my website, and it was written as like vaguely like a comedy, but it could also work as like a psychological horror. It could also work. It could work as a really like spiritual piece as well. But it's like, which one of those feels right? I know what to me feels right, but I haven't figured out the narrative of it yet. I know the premise, just not the narrative, and that's something I really want to get to, but I can't quite get my head around at the moment. But yeah, no, those are other projects that I'll work on probably in the future. Like, if writing turns out to be fun for me, like it was a decade ago, I've just had a 10-year lapse in writing. Then I'll move on to those other stories too. But this, for now, is just Humanity Prelude. And maybe the next video is me announcing that I've begun. But we'll see. I don't know if I do another research stream is what I'm trying to say. Thanks for tuning in. Fruity Spruce, Fart, Bubba K, Sure, anyone else who stopped by in the chat, except that one person who was banned. I can't remember why. Why were you banned? What was the message you sent? If you want more viewers and to rank higher on the Twitch list, you can visit the website. Right. It was a robot. It was a robot. Thanks for stream. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, ta-ra for now.